Hi, I'm Reba from the Mystery Box Show. Today's story is coming to you from a plus-sized and disabled model, and she's a good friend of ours too, an incredible storyteller. Please enjoy Catalina Ritzinger.
So there I was, 15 years old, on top, topless, straddling a mid-pubescent Riley. I was hooking up with Riley. This was the shit that I daydreamed about in math class. This is the stuff that had me adding experiences onto that slut card that I was working so hard towards. I looked down and I could see my luscious boobs coming out of my pink Victoria's Secret push-up bra. And just past that, I could see uh, Riley's Justin Bieber haircut. And I was so turned on. He was into it, and I was into it. I was feeling myself, and I felt so sexy and so wanted. Um, I had always been kind of a boy crazy girl, and I also developed kind of before most girls. So it felt really good to put my curves to good use. One Thursday after school, I was rushing into my dance class because I was late, as per usual. And the girls had already started, so I got in line, counted myself in, and started to do pirouettes across the floor. I was spinning and started, a couple of times across, blazing across the floor, when all of a sudden I heard snap. And I didn't really know what was happening, but I knew that I was on the ground. And I'm sitting there on the ground. I don't know why I'm on the ground. I'm sweating. I started to get all beady, and the room started getting fuzzy, and sound was coming in and out, and all of my dancer friends were around me trying to help me get back up, and we were kind of like laughing, like, haha, you're so clumsy, let's get you back up. And I couldn't get back up, and I didn't know why, and I was just had this adrenaline surging through me. I was so confused and so embarrassed. And after a really grueling night in the ER, and an emergency biopsy, I learned that the reason that I had fallen was because my femur snapped in half due to a tumor. Um, I was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, which is a bone cancer. And that's when my life sort of flipped upside down. Um, I started to be attached to all these monitors and machines and IVs and people poking and prodding, and I was disabled now, and I had all these moments where I realized that I was kind of letting go of my body. I no longer control over who is in my space, and I kind of sort of gave my body over to science. It was time to um, figure out what was wrong with me and fix me, and in that process I sort of lost autonomy. Things were really hard. I had to start chemotherapy, and during chemo I wasn't allowed to be close to people. I wasn't allowed to hug people. I wasn't allowed to be in the same room as people. I had to wear a mask all the time. I had to wash my hands all the time. I had to have sanitizer all the time. And I was doing all that COVID shit before it was popular. So I'm living this really sheltered life of trying to protect myself. And in the process, I'm not allowed to even kiss my boyfriend. And I remember having a conversation with my doctor, and I was like, well, like, why can't I just, it's just a kiss. I mean, like, we won't use tongue. We'll like keep the spit in our own mouths. And she was like, well, if he has a cold and you kiss him, that kiss could be your death. So there I was, no kissing, no hugging. I had, no intimacy, absolutely none. And I was really secluded. It was a really long, grueling process. Um, I started to get better, and I started to like build back my independence. I moved out of my home with my parents, and I, slowly started building up the ability to go and do things on my own. No longer had my parents bathing me, taking me to the bathroom and all that stuff. Um, I was getting used to this new normal. And throughout the process, there were various different experiences that sort of helped me ground and sort of like find my way back into my skin. This one night, I was shopping for a dress for my friend's wedding, and I my whole closet was full of pajamas. I had to find something that was going to make me feel good and presentable at a wedding. I go into this boutique that's too expensive for my own good, and it's one of my favorites. But I go in there and I find myself looking at this dress. It's the perfect length. It's like flirty and short, but still acceptable for a wedding. It's got this little flair to it. It's kind of floral. So I decided to try it on. Trying on clothing for me is not the best experience. I was on crutches and I didn't really like how I looked, but I put on this dress and I had this moment in the mirror where I was looking at myself, and the dress had this beautiful little detail of just like this deep neck. And then there were these little lacy ties all the way up. And behind the lacy ties, there was nothing but skin. And all I could see were my boobs. And I was like, oh shit, this is my boobs making a comeback. So I bought the dress. I bought the dress and it made me feel so powerful and so sexy. And I went to that wedding and I stayed on the dance floor all night long. Yes, I was in my wheelchair. Yes, I had a motherfucking good time. When I moved in with one of my best friends, we started going out on the town a lot more, and I was getting really out there. And one night she asked me, "Hey, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?" And you know, in my head, I was like, "Well, I'm keeping it open. Not that anyone's going to ask me to do anything, but like, I'd like to hope." Uh, and she said, "Let's go to a mystery box show." I had no idea what a mystery box show was. But, just in case I didn't have a sexy date that night, I said yes. So we go into this theater and it's incredible. I roll in and I'm automatically greeted by people in colors and just really vibrant people, really couples, like beautiful couples and old couples and disabled couples. And I really felt like, oh my God, like this is such a rad place to be right now. We found our seats and again, still no idea what was happening. Throughout the night, people came on the stage and they told stories that were vulnerable and sexy and intimate. And there was room for all kinds of emotions. I was laughing and crying and um, feeling everything that you could feel when you're in a really good place. While I was in the audience, I sort of had a moment where I was like, I'm not just an outsider like in watching this show. I'm part of this audience. I am these people here. I am someone who is sexual. I am someone who gets to celebrate that. And it was a really transformative night for me. So I went home and I uploaded my new picture from the mystery box show where I felt confident and sexy, and I started swiping. I swiped through a few profiles and came across one that I kind of liked. We started talking and it was going really well. I was really surprised, to be honest. I have a lot of insecurities as somebody who's plus size and disabled. And, there's a lot of barriers that I would think someone would have. Before I knew it, I was inviting him over to my apartment. And I let him in. And I was, we were gonna watch a movie, right? Like I was gonna I was in my sweats and my granny panties and my bun, and I had my fuzzy bunny socks on. So like this was super like chill night. I let him in. We say hello. We introduce each other. We introduce ourselves, and we get comfortable. I have to transfer over to the couch from my wheelchair at this point, which is not something I like a lot of people to see. It kind of really makes my disability a reality. Sometimes I feel like I can be in my chair and I'm just me. But as soon as I have to leave the chair, I just have to really be in this disability. I also didn't want him to be turned off. I didn't want him to see me like transferring over and be like, oh shit, that's too real. We watched about 2 minutes of Grace and Frankie before we started sucking each other's faces off. And things got heated in the best way. I was still a little reserved, but really leaning into the moment. This guy started to pull down my granny panties. I had my reservations, but before I knew it, he was face first in between my legs. And then he kind of reached around me and gave me this like big old bear hug. And I was like really confused until all of a sudden I realized it was up in the air. He had lifted me up off the couch and brought me over to my bed. This doesn't happen to me. This has never happened to me. I'm a big girl. I'm hard to lift. He laid me down on the bed and we proceeded to have a lot of sex. Like a lot of sex. And he was rough with me in a way that felt really safe. And it was like he was treating me like I wasn't a patient, like I wasn't somebody that was delicate. And between one of our pillow talk moments, one of our breaks, he looks over at me and he says, I want you to sit on my face. And I laughed at him. I said, oh, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can physically do that. And he kind of looked at me and he was like, well, do you not want to? Or like, are you afraid to try? Should we maybe try it? And I said, what the hell? Sure, let's do it. I'll sit on your face. He does this like bear hug thing again. And I realize he's grabbing me at the center of gravity, which is smart. He flips me around in sort of this like fidget spinner matter. And all of a sudden I'm on top and I'm sitting on his face. I'm literally doing it. I'm sitting on his face and it was good. It was really good. And I'm having this moment of like, oh my god, I'm doing it. This is what this is like. Holy crap. And I also had this moment of like, I'm like breaking up all these myths that I had created about myself, about my abilities, about my disability, about my sexuality. And while I sat on top of his face, I realized, he might have been the first person to ever help me break down those walls and those barriers and those myths that I had created. But he definitely won't be the last.
Thanks for watching. If you like what we do, please consider supporting us on Patreon. And of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit that notification bell to be notified of all of our upcoming live streams and confession corners. See you next time.